Hello, everyone. Here I will be talking about the later part of leading change and the earlier part of the change agent as found on the chapter 1 of the book written by Esther Cameron and Mike Green in 2012. Now, in the earlier part of chapter 1, Cameron and Green presented different useful notions of leadership, including the different metaphors of the change process and the six leadership styles defined by Daniel Goleman. Now, what I'm about to impart to you is the sequel to Cameron and Green's discussion on leadership qualities. I'm pretty much sure that you are familiar with this quote from the legendary Greek philosopher Heraclitus, who maintained that you never step into the same river twice. And that brought us to understanding that really change is constant and it is a process. And this process comes in different phases, which calls for different leadership styles and models that will guide the leader of the organization. Let us utilize a Venn diagram to compare the different types of leadership that Cameron and Green had established. Now, we said that change is a process and it comes in different phases. The phasing enables leaders to see the need for flexibility of their leadership styles. In our illustration, the left part is the outer leadership, which means the observable actions of the leader, and on the right is the inner leadership, which means what's going on inside the leader in every phase of the change process. Our first phase is establishing the need for change. The outer leadership will show influencing, understanding, researching, presenting, listening, among others, while going on inside our leader is managing emotions, maintaining integrity, being courageous, and the likes. The next phase in the change process is building the change team, where the leader brings the right people together and establishes momentum through teamwork. Here we can see our leader chairing meetings, facilitating discussions, among others, while maintaining adaptability, maintaining energy despite knockbacks. Our third phase of the change process is creating vision and values, and the leader works with the group to build a picture of success. The outer leadership initiate ideas and encourage divergent and creative thinking, while the inner leadership maintains strategic thinking and taking time to reflect, among others. Next phase is communicating and engaging, and outer leadership includes persuading and engaging and presenting with passion, while inner leadership includes patience, analysis how to present to audience, empathy, among others. Fifth phase is empowering others, and the outer leadership includes clear target setting, good delegation, coaching, etc., while inner leadership includes integrity, trust, patience, steadiness of purpose, among others. Next phase is noticing improvements and energizing. Outer leadership includes walking the talk, rewarding, and sharing success, while inner leadership includes organizational and social awareness and empathy. The last phase in the change process by Cameron and Green is consolidating. Here, the leader encourages people to take stock of where they are and reflect on how much has been achieved. So the outer leadership gives positive feedback before moving on to the next, while the inner leadership takes time to reflect. Cutter's leading change in 1996 maintained 8 steps to transforming organizations. Recommended actions were provided during all the steps, but Cameron and Green highlighted the first 4 steps that exemplify direct actions from the leader. Let us look into Cutter's recommended actions for the first 4 change steps. And the first step is establishing a sense of urgency. Therefore, the leader create a crisis by exposing issues rather than protecting people from them. The second is creating the guiding coalition. The leader must initiate talking a lot together, building trust, and building a common goal. Third is developing a vision and strategy. Vision building is difficult and sometimes emotionally charged exercise, expected to take months. It is never achieved in a single meeting. Fourth, communicating the change vision. Use two-way discussions and listen to feedback. Rosabeth Moss Cantor highlights perseverance even when the change process gets tough. Cantor says that leaders need to employ the following strategies to ensure that a change process is sustained. First, tune into the environment. Listen and learn from customers. Second, challenge the prevailing organizational wisdom. Send people far afield and rotate jobs. Next, communicate a compelling aspiration, as there are so many sources of resistance to overcome. Next, build coalitions. She says that change leaders need the involvement of people to make things happen. Transfer ownership to a working team. Others should be brought on board to focus on implementation. Learn to persevere. The beginning is exciting and the end satisfying. It is the hard work and the middle that necessitates the leader's perseverance. And last, make everyone a hero. Remember to reward and recognize achievements. Another school of thought is from William Bridges, who has very clear ideas about what leaders need to do to make change work. He has identified three phases of transition, including ending, neutral zone, and new beginning. Under leadership for the ending, Bridges advises how to manage the ending phase or how to get to let them go. First, study the change carefully and identify who is likely to lose what. Next, acknowledge these losses openly. Allow people to grieve and publicly express their own sense of loss. Compensate people for their losses. For example, compensate loss of core competence with training in new areas. Then, give people accurate information again and again. Next, define what is over and what is not. Also, find ways to mark the ending and honor rather than denigrate the past. The next crucial transition is leadership for the neutral zone because neutral zone is a very uncomfortable place to be. If this phase is not managed well, it may lead to chaos in the organization. So Bridges has tips for this phase and it begins with explaining to the organization the neutral zone as an uncomfortable time, followed by choosing a new and more affirmative metaphor with which to describe the neutral zone or the situation. Then, reinforcing this with training programs, policy changes, and financial rewards. Followed by creating temporary policies, procedures, roles, and reporting relationships to get you through the neutral zone. Setting short range goals and checkpoints. Setting up a transition monitoring team to keep realistic feedbacking flowing from upward during the time in the neutral zone. And then encouraging experimentation and taking risks. And encouraging people to brainstorm many answers to the old problems. The last transition is for the new beginning, and here are some of Bridges' ideas on leadership. First is distinguishing in your own mind the difference between the start and the beginning. Second, communicate the purpose of the change. Next, creating an effective picture of the change and communicate it effectively. Followed by creating a plan for bridging people through the three phases of transition. Then help people to discover the part they will play in the new system. Build some occasions for quick success and celebrate the new beginning and the conclusion of the time of transition. Cameron and Green agrees with Daniel Goleman in his idea that the key for successful leadership is importance of self-knowledge and inner resources, which forms the bedrock of the emotionally intelligent leader. This is in consonance with Warren Bennis as he emphasizes the need to know oneself in order to become a good leader. He itemizes four lessons of self-knowledge, and these are: 1. Be your own teacher. 2. Accept responsibility and blame no one. 3. You can learn anything you want to learn. And fourth, true understanding comes from reflecting on your experience. Another much acclaimed writer is Steve Covey, who wrote a book entitled Principle Centered Leadership in 1992, where he identified 8 characteristics of principle centered leaders and 7 habits, which are much quoted in management and leadership training courses. These 7 habits include being proactive, begin with an end in mind, putting first things first, meaning prioritizing, and think win-win. It is seek first to understand, then be understood. Sixth is synergize. And the last is sharpen the saw, meaning the need for continuous improvement or self-renewal. This time, let's talk about the change agent because it is a very crucial role for change to happen. In leading change, O'Neill has defined change agent as the facilitator of the change. He or she helps the sponsor and the implementers stay aligned with each other. And according to him, the change agent acts as data gatherer, educator, advisor, meeting facilitator, and coach. Caldwell, who has been researching the role of the change agent, has developed a fourfold classification covering leadership, management, consultancy, and team models, hence, the models of change agency. The first is leadership models, where change agents are identified as leaders or senior executives at the very top of the organization. Next is the management models, where change agents are conceived as middle level managers. Third is the consultancy models, where change agents are conceived as external or internal consultants who operate at a strategic, operational, task, or process level within an organization. And the last is team models, where change agents are conceived as teams that may operate at a strategic, operational, task, or process level within an organization. In line with Caldwell's models of change agency, Black has laid down 3 types of role that change agent can play in the consulting process. The first is the expert, which is someone who is brought in because other people in the organization need someone who knows what to do and how to do it. Next is the extra pair of hands, who is someone who is brought in to help out the organization because it doesn't have the capacity. The third is the collaborative role, who is someone who has expertise and experience in the change field. Change could be tough and chaotic, so some organizations rely on outside help, while others believe that they have the change agency capacity in-house. In 1995, Lacey had laid down differences between internal and external consultants so one can consider what may be best for any particular change situation, and partly so that the change agent can understand some of the nuances. Consulting processes include entry, contracting, diagnosis, intervening, and evaluating. Let's look at the first consulting process, entry. One of the differences between the internal change agent and the external change agent is that the internal change agent has ready access to all the clients because they are part of the organization, while the external change agent, because they are outside of the organization, they have to source or find the clients and understand them. The second is the contracting process. Here, the internal change agent may have informal agreements within the organization, while the external change agent has to have formal documents. In the diagnosis, the internal change agent has relationships with many organizational members, while the external change agent has to meet most organization members for the first time. In intervening, there could be interference for client across organizational lines for internal change agent, while the external change agent has to confine activities within boundaries of client organization. Finally, under the evaluating process, the internal change agent can see change become institutionalized, while the external change agent may seldom see long-term results. So these are just some of the differences between the internal change agent and the external change agent in the different consulting processes. Different commentators delineate the stages of the consulting process in different ways, but generically, they can be described as an entry stage followed by contracting, diagnosing, implementing, or intervening, and evaluating. Now, the consulting process suggests that different sets of knowledge, cognitive skills, and behaviors are needed at different stages in the consulting process. Hence, the indicative knowledge, skills, and behaviors in the different consulting phase, starting with the entry, includes building trust, political sensitivity, pragmatism, and planning. Under contracting, relationship building, evaluation of criteria, motivation, and resource management. Under the phase diagnosis, we have ability to coach, generate viable options, presentation techniques, and creating manageable action plans. In intervening, we have designing more participation, designing interventions, open-mindedness, and sensible sequencing. And the last consulting phase, which is evaluating, we have evaluation, being able to co-design, having in mind that feedback is also a valid data, and shared understanding. And that was my part of the presentation on leading change and the change agent. This has been Maria Flores Batalla. Thank you for watching. Keep safe and God bless us all.